Good evening all. Today is our next class under GST certificate course conducted by the Department of Economics with Foreign Trade VTP College Sri Krishnapuram. Today's topic is concept of supply. Under GST, supply is considered a taxable event for charging tax. The liability to pay tax arises at the time of supply of goods or services. We have already analyzed that the GST is a tax levied upon the supply of goods or services. Thus, determining whether or not a transaction falls under the meaning of supply is important to decide GST's applicability. So, concept before GST. Under the erstwhile the indirect tax regime, there was no concept of supply. The stage at which indirect taxes were levied varied under different tax laws. The excise duty was charged on goods manufactured when they were taken out of the factory. That is, the excise tax was the tax on production. Service tax was levied based on certain rules known as the point of taxation rules. That is, the service tax was based upon the point of taxation rules for service rendered. A VAT means value added tax, would arise on the value of the sale of goods or provision of services. VAT means the VAT is charged upon every value addition. Okay, the present system has merged all taxes to maintain a single taxable event. So we know that all these indirect taxes have merged into a single tax, that is goods and services tax. What is supply under GST? Supply includes sale, transfer, exchange, barter, license, rental, lease and disposal. So these are the factors of supply. Okay, sale, transfer, exchange, barter, license, rental, lease and disposal are the supply factors, or all these components constitute supply. If a person undertakes either of these transactions during the course or furtherance of business for consideration, it will be covered under the meaning of supply under GST. Okay, so what is supply under GST? It may be lease. Lease means contract to allow right to use for a period without transfer of title. So you all are commerce students, so the term lease will be very familiar to you, isn't it? That is, the lease means it is a contract to allow the use of some assets. Okay, that is lease. Exchange means to swap or transfer for an equivalent with use of money. License means a permission granted to exercise certain privileges. Sale means transfer of ownership of goods. Transfer means transfer of goods, right in goods without transfer of title. Barter means exchange of one commodity for another commodity. It is very familiar to us. Okay. Rental means periodical payment for the use of someone else's property. That is, if we are hiring someone else's property, it is known as rental. Okay, disposal means to part with or alliance. So, the elements of supply. Supply has two important elements. The first element is composite supply. The second element is mixed supply. Okay, that is, supply has two important elements. The first, supply is done for a consideration. Supply is done in course of furtherance of business. Okay, if the above mentioned elements are not met with, it is not considered as a sale. Composite supply and mixed supply. Let us describe what is composite supply and what is mixed supply. There are few supplies which are made together with two or more items. Such supplies are further classified into composite supply and mixed supply. A supply comprising of two or more goods or services which are necessarily supplied in conjunction with each other as per frequent business practices followed in that area. In other words, these items cannot be supplied individually. There is a principal supply and a secondary supply in the whole transaction. That is, the term composite supply means that the supply of the items together, that is the supply of two or more items, that is the individual supply is not possible. In this case, the supply is known as composite supply. In such cases, the tax rate on principal supply will apply to the entire supply. Okay, so here there will be more than one commodity, so the tax rate will be levied upon one commodity and it will be copied for all other commodity. For example, buying buying a dry fruit gift box for Diwali. It includes dry fruits, a box and a wrapper. We know that box and wrapper cannot be sold individually without the main content, which is dry fruit. This is a composite supply. That is, if there is a supply of more than one product. Here in this example, if we are going to, for example, if we are going to buy a chocolate box, there will be chocolates, and the chocolates will be covered in a box. Okay, so if we are going to buy a juice, okay, if we are going to buy a packed juice, there will be a packet, and in that packet the juice is available. Okay, so there are two commodities, that is more than one commodity. So the principal tax may the tax rate may be levied upon the principal commodity, and it will be copied to other commodity also. A supply comprising of two or more goods or services wherein the supplies are independent of each other, are not necessarily required to be sold together, is called mixed supply. That is, if there is supply of more than one good, but they can exist by individual too. That is, they can supply individually. The supply is possible, but the individual supply is also possible here. That is, in case of mixed supply, in contrast to the composite supply. Under composite supply, the individual supply is not possible. Okay, the supply of the dry fruit packet alone is not possible. It can only sell along with that dry fruit. Okay, so but in the case of mixed supply, the individual items can sell. Okay, for example, the first condition to be met for mixed supply is that it should not be a composite supply. In such cases, the tax rate that is higher of the two supplies will be applicable to the entire supply. That is, if there is buying a Christmas package consisting of cakes, aerated drinks, chocolates, Santa caps, and other gift items, each of these items can be sold separately and are not dependent on each other. This is a mixed supply, and the tax rate will be levied on the basis of the highest tax rate. If the tax rate is high for cakes, then that tax rate will be applied to all other commodities. So here the company can supply all these components individually, and the company can supply these components in a mixed package. So here the type of supply is mixed supply. All these about supply, the concept of supply under GST. If there is any doubts, please feel free to contact with us. Thank you.